Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, and I'm back again with good old buddy Dave Candito. And we just thought that, one was just not enough. It was, what? We're coming in full storm here, and we got to get another movie in just right off the bat. So we just got talking. It's like, well, after watching Meet the Feebles, and then you threw out, you're like, have you ever done Orgazmo? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I have done that once in a podcast. And it's not saying that you can't do it again, because after a while in podcasting, you realize you're like, it's been 5-6 years. I can do the same movie over again. It's going to be fresh again and all that kind of stuff. But then I was like, you know what? There's one I really do like. And it's Cannibal the Musical. And I was like, and you're like, oh, I haven't seen that yet. And I'm like, dude, you're in for a treat here.
Oh, yeah.
And there was actually a dude who oddly, he mentioned it in the comment on our Meet the Feebles one. He literally, I'm going to pull up his name real quick, but he was like, yo, have you guys ever seen Cannibal or whatever like that? I was like, dude, I kid you not. We were literally talking about that.
No, that's a great flick. It kind of, the opening, which is, absolutely hilarious. I love the violence has been removed from this film, and all of a sudden this guy's ripping limbs off and biting people in the neck, and there's blood everywhere, like Tarantino level blood. You're like, the violence has been edited out. All right, it's pretty damn hilarious intro, and then the following that, like the opening credits. I don't know if you ever heard of Paint Your Wagon.
Yeah, the Clint Eastwood one. I'm gonna paint your wagon, do. Somebody sign me up to do a musical, and I'm not really sure.
So for whatever reason, I started thinking about that, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. And then, of course, it just was, wild and outrageous because Matt Stone, Trey Parker, what he... And I love the pre-South Park stuff because it's, you're like, I know this, and it's like little would you realize how huge those little things would be, in just a few years later, the voice of the car, like it was like a little cat or something, where there's some kid singing in that first like trade store or trading post they go into. You get, like, Carpenter's voice, you're like,
there's a few of them, because you also hear Mr. Garrison's voice, you hear like a proto version of that, and just some of these other elements of just certain characters and whatnot, and just that's the coolest thing about like Cannibal the Musical. It's like, okay, it's Trey Parker, Matt Stone. They're literally making this at like age 21, 22, putting together, this is like right when they're in like the University of Colorado, and they're like, you know what, we're just going to make a goofy movie and whatnot like that. And I like, because Trey Parker literally, he's like, I was going to get married. I was like literally about to. And then he's like, right there at the last second, like she pulled out and cut out and everything. It's like, what am I going to do with my life? He's like, well, I guess this is it. If there might only be one thing left in life, I'm just going to make a movie. I'm going to go full board into it. So.
Was that the first movie?
That's the Cannibal one. That's what the horse is pretty much supposed to be like his girlfriend, like the.
Oh, I had the idea. I mean, I had the idea of that, which was hilarious. Like, everyone in town's riding your horse. But I didn't know that was their first movie. So that's pretty cool.
So this one's like totally, I'm assuming there's probably got to be some shorts or something like that, that who knows, sitting at somebody's house on like 8mm or something like that. But yeah, it's one of those ones where that's a really
first
cool.
Movie.
It is. And it's one of those things like, gosh, like I remember, because I discovered this one when, they had this DVD come out back, it's the 13th anniversary, and it's like a 2-disc super special edition of Cannibal from Troma and whatnot like that. And I remember it was like when you was trying to catch up on all the Trey Parker stuff. It's like, okay, we have basketball and whatnot like that, and that's always great. I love that movie so much, you know what I mean? I think it's so funny. And then it's like, when you kind of go like looking for more, it's like, okay, then there's Orgazmo, and then you go back, and then Cannibal's like, the first one like that. And I always wish that they would do more live action movies. I always think that like they just kill those live action movies so well. And there's technically only 3 of them, and then there's Team America, which is kind of like the alternative, but man, it's like they're so funny, they're so classically witty. And it's like, especially if Cannibal, like that movie is one of those ones that every time I watch it, it really like gets me super motivated to like make films and so on like that. Oh, look, they're going to town on that wall over there.
That's not my neighbors. Taco Bell for lunch.
Like, oh, hold on, the rumbling's going. Okay. I think we're good for right now. You know.
But be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared because
the what was it? The Meet the Feebles that we were talking about. They were talking about how difficult it was making the puppet movie, the Team America.
Yeah, I think we were kind of talking about that. I don't even know where that. I was looking for that comment real quick, and I, for some reason, could not find it to save my life on here because I wanted to mention that nice fella who was talking about it. But whatever, nice fella left a comment on there. I don't know why it's not popping up on this version, but whatever. Yeah, I think that was when we were talking about that too, because Meet the Feebles definitely has a little bit of that Team America-ness where, you know, you're working with puppets and so on like that. And I know that those puppets for Team America, like, that was like where Trey Parker, Matt Stone, like, they literally got that point where, like, maybe it's just done. No more movies, no more South Park. We'll just retire from this point. It's like, what's the point? Like, it was such a pain in the ass, you know? And there's some special features on that Cannibal disc where, like, Lloyd Kaufman of, like, Tromaville, which, if you've never seen Lloyd Kaufman, he literally looks just like Mel Brooks. It's kind of funny. It's like he almost looks like if Mel Brooks had, like, almost like a twin brother or something like that. That's like Lloyd Kaufman. And I don't know, have you ever seen any of those other Tromaville movies before in life?
No, I don't think so.
Like the Toxic Avenger, the Class of High.
No. I may have seen a few of them. I know that Toxic Avenger is the one that I've always seen, like either on a streaming app or something. And I'm like, that looks cool. Now I'm going to see what else is on here. And, it was like it looked cool enough to watch, but not cool enough for me to press play. And now I feel like I got to watch it.
Yeah, it's like, so he pretty much like Lloyd Kaufman and that Tromaville stuff. It's like from like the late 70s to like, you know, the 90s into early 2000s. It's like he just had all these like cool B and C grade movies that like were generally straight to video, like really maximize that VHS era and so on like that. And they're just those ones that they're like ridiculously violent, you know, and got goofy humor and so on like that.
Like Sam Raimi.
Yeah, and the gross out gag. Yeah, it's like doing the Sam Raimi thing, but just like cranking it up even farther. Like how far can we go with it? You know, like we were talking about Dead Alive and so on like that. It's like almost some of those Tromaville ones go even farther.
Do you remember the movie House, the horror movie House?
I remember House Party.
There's an older horror movie. It's called House. It's like a pretty iconic horror film. I don't know who directed it, but it's
is that the one that stars that doctor in it and everything like that? His name's House.
Oh. And then what that make me think of too? I just saw an ad earlier for the Terrifier 3. Have you seen any of those?
No, I haven't. But my friend Buddy, he said that they were playing both of those movies at the Gathering of the Juggalos like 2 months ago when he was there.
Oh boy, that'd be something to watch in itself. I don't know if I could keep my eyes on the screen. I'd be watching what's going on around me.
Dude, he talked about it like it was the greatest thing ever. He's like, dude, it's the best people watching experience you'll see ever. There's nothing will compare to it.
I can only imagine.
It's like 5 or 6 days of just constant like, wow, I didn't expect to see that. Hey, look at that going on there.
What's funny? It's funny you mentioned the Juggalo thing. Right across from where my wife was working as a server, it's kind of the downtown, if you will, of our town, which is a small town. And there was a bar that we just got hired at, actually, called Bodie's. And they usually have something going on there, different little shows and stuff. And they had half of ICP there like a few months ago.
Really?
Shaggy 2 Dope. Yeah, Shaggy 2 Dope showed up.
He's doing his solo stuff.
I guess. And I heard nothing about it. And what was funny was that I was sitting at this other restaurant/bar that my wife was at. I was waiting for her to get off. I'm just sitting there talking to nobody, drinking a beer. And then the next day, like, oh yeah, Shaggy 2 Dope was here. And I'm like, I don't even like ICP, but I mean, like, it'd be something to do. And but then again, I thought, I don't know, maybe that wouldn't be something to do. Maybe I might come home with like some weird stab wound or disease or something. I don't know. But
I feel like the experience would be fun. I don't know what it is. Like, there's just something about it. Like,
I'm almost always down for a show. It's got to be something I really don't like or don't care about. But even then, I mean, I've gone to some dumb shows just because they were there and I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's the dumb one now?
But yeah. Anyway, the Terrifier. That, wow. I can't think of a gorier horror movie that I've ever seen. I didn't see the second one. I saw the first one. The story is nothing to shake your tail feathers at. I guess it's not a bad film. It's entertaining, and it's what you expect a B movie to be. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's just like, this is a good campy film. But aside from that, it's like, it is so over the top that it's like, I really don't know if I want to watch it again. It's pretty nasty. And I've heard about some other films that I probably won't watch that are supposed to be pretty terrible too, like Serbian film. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes. Yeah, I remember I had a buddy tell me about that, like in high detail, like outside.
Why do you want to watch that? But the Terrifier 2, when that came out in theaters, granted, I saw Terrifier when I was deployed in my tent one Sunday, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm glad I watched that, but okay. And Terrifier 2 comes out, and I remember reading the reviews about people that were like throwing up in the movie theater and walking out. And I guess the same thing happened in the release for this third one, and I'm like, don't eat before you go see it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess stop having that cotton candy beforehand. Like, think this through.
That said, that violence, man, going back to the the Cannibal, that was just so hilarious. It's funny too. It makes you wonder about yourself as a person when that opening scene happened. I'm sitting there just busting up laughing. Like, I can't contain myself. I guess it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, just so ridiculous. Well, the best part too is it's actually done kind of well, because it's like so ridiculous, and then what it does is it cuts to like a courtroom drama, and there's just a guy in there, and he's making it seem way more over the top than it really is. So it's just like, that's how it's just like almost like you're picturing it what this dude's saying.
That's not how I remember it.
And I think that's what I like about Cannibal the musical is it's like a mix. It actually has a lot kind of like going on depth wise, because you have like that little bit of like when there is a horror scene or something like that, it is violent and bloody and gross and so on. But then it's almost kind of like it's based off a true story, like a real like Colorado like legend type thing. Their version of the Donner Party.
I thought it was baloney at first. Like when I saw it based on a true story, I'm like, they're so full of shit. And because I mean, what else do you expect from the guys who created South Park, And, but I'm like, maybe they're not full of crap, So I'm like, this is real, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Alfred Packer's a real fella. Yeah.
It kind of maybe the part of him and her as in the press lady. It made me think of Harlequin and Joker, but to a far different extent. But
yeah, it does kind of have that.
It's kind of funny, but I heard that. Speaking of that, I heard that Joker 2 was a huge flop.
I know. Well, it sounds weird. Like, generally, I used to be that person, like, I would never miss a DC movie. I will watch them all no matter what. And that's like the first time that I was like, I just really didn't like that first Joker movie. I didn't like that they made Joker kind of retarded and he had all these like mommy issues and shit. And I was like, you know what? No. Joker might be crazy and he might be weird and all this stuff like this, but he's still a really intelligent guy. He's not just some loser kid.
He's a mastermind. He's
hanging out in an apartment. You know what I mean? Like. So it was like, I'm like, I don't need to see that. Like that's a movie made for somebody else, and that's fine. It's And
I think that if that movie was called anything else other than Joker, and his character was given the pseudonym anything else other than Joker, I think it could have been a decent film. Like if basically you just remove that Joker aspect and just call it Arthur Fleck.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's one of those. It's a fine story. It's just for Joker, it's just kind of offensive almost.
Like, what is this? What is this?
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's just like it reminds me of like when you get somebody who's not really into comics, but they're like, "Dude, I got a great idea for how a Joker story should go." But it's like, dude, you never read a comic. You didn't even watch the movie. You walked out of Batman '89. Like, what do you mean you have a great idea? Yeah, it reminds me of like one of those kind of people, like who didn't do their homework one bit, but just decide they wanted to take somebody else's kind of idea and run with it.
It seems like, with the exception of Ryan Reynolds, that's how they're making superhero movies these days, and Star Wars movies and everything else.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, Oh, there's so much that just ties in everything. It's which I guess is good with a movie when you can watch it and go, oh, that makes me think of this. This is great. Oh, that makes me think of that. This is great. And, I love that part where he rolls into that. Of course, that hilarious, ridiculous scene with him coming in on his horse. You know, like, I'd love to ride her in the. My heart's as full as a baked potato.
Oh yeah. The sky is blue and all the leaves are green. My heart's as warm as a baked potato. I actually literally have that soundtrack. I remember buying it afterwards. I'm like, I gotta have this. So I gotta have these tunes so I can blare them. Because I got that one. I got the Team America soundtrack. I got the South Park the movie soundtrack because that's got another one there. Because that's the thing is Trey Parker, he puts together some good musical numbers. You know what I mean? Oh
yeah, that's some of the best songs I've ever heard in my life. Especially Pearl Harbor sucked and I miss you.
Exactly.
Pearl Harbor sucked.
Where were you?
Just a little bit more than I missed you.
Or I always love the only a woman.
Oh yeah. Is allowed to touch me there.
And I just love how that song ends. It's like, only a woman or a man.
I love how much they're, that's one of the biggest things I like about South Park and just Matt and Trey is their songs. It's kind of like a retarded version of Cheech and Chong, which is already not like, it's intelligent. it's like a white guy Cheech and Chong. And one thing I always thought was kind of funny is if you listen to some of the older White Zombie records, I think it's Trey Parker, who I get him mixed up all the time. The main character is Trey Parker.
Trey Parker is the main character, and then the one with glasses and the curly hair is Matt Stone.
Matt Stone, that's what I thought. I feel like a lot of those songs are sung by Trey Parker.
Yeah, well, it's one of those ones like it's actually like the majority of the stuff is kind of more Trey Parker, and Matt Stone's kind of there to be just the helpful buddy who throws in just like the good like one-liners and things like that. So, but like the core stuff is like it's just going on that wall hard. Just, it's like it's like the Edgar Allan Poe movie, or not movie, Edgar Allan Poe story.
Interesting.
You know, where's that heartbeat underneath like the fucking floorboards? The guy's like, Jesus, stop! It's just terrible. I know, I put you there.
So talk about revenge.
Yeah.
I just let it go. I let it flow, really.
You know,
but.
Edgar Allan Poe, he had a story tie-in with Taco Bell. Dude, that guy's just getting pissed now at that wall. He's like, that fucking piece of shit wall. Like, go ahead, damn it. He's putting together some IKEA furniture next door.
IKEA, dude. I hate IKEA. Have you ever been into an IKEA?
I never have. I've always wondered what the experience is like.
Don't go, man. It's terrible. And I'm not exaggerating. The reason why it's terrible is you enter the building thinking it's just like any other normal store. You know, you go in, there's aisles A through Z, and then you go through them and you're like, okay, I don't really want to buy anything. I go. But you've gone through like...
are you drawing me a map here?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to give me some like secret pirate treasure? Like,
I'm serious. Like you go, like you enter... And then you go in, and there's only one path in the whole store. There's only one path that goes like all this way.
So it's like you're stuck in the labyrinth. You feel like David Bowie's gonna show up at some point.
I was getting really creeped out, like on a weird level. You know, I'm like, because there's arrows on the floor that you follow, and well, I mean, I guess you don't have to follow. I guess the choice was my own. I could have just gone backwards, but it didn't feel right. You know, I see the arrows, and I'm thinking that must be the way out. So I go, and then in the next room. Here I am in another area with all this different, like, it was either kitchenware or there's sofas, and then the next room is bed sets, and then the next room it's TV stands, and the next room it's cabinets, and the next room it's silverware. I'm like, when the hell does this place stop? Like, end? And it probably took us like 45 minutes to an hour to get out of there.
Oh,
and
they don't want you getting out of there empty-handed now.
That was the worst. I'll never go back. And half that stuff too is like not cheap. And it's funny because most of it looks so cheaply made, but it's not cheap at all.
No. And you got put together yourself, correct? Like that's the whole like thing of it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know actually. I don't know. But
you put the silverware together yourself? Yeah, just
put the little prongs on the forks.
Yeah, it looks like Lego pieces.
I have to put this Lego set together myself. What the hell? They did have a little Lego section. That was kind of cool. Well, actually, they didn't have any Legos for sale. They just had a little display Legos. And I'm thinking, what the hell is the point of this? Like, you showing me something. The only one thing I would probably buy here, you don't have for sale.
Don't have it. It's gone. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, just like getting lost in IKEA in a maze of a labyrinth there. You know, our heroes in Cannibal the Musical, they go on the search for gold in the Breckenridge territory, going from Utah to Colorado. And during this adventure, they get stuck in the mountains. There's a snowstorm that's going to come. It's going to be like the Donner Party. You just know it. They're unprepared and so on like that. And they got the trials and tribulations of this journey to unfold.
I love the when they go set out for that too. You're like, oh, we need to go to Colorado. We need to go to Breckenridge. Who can lead us out there? And the guy's like, here's some Colorado territory. He's like, I mean, I'm not really, you know. He's like, okay, great, you know. And then Matt Stone's dad is just like trying to give him away.
Yeah, he's like, son, you got to go out there right now. Me and your brother will meet you when we get there.
You've always wanted to go out there. He's like, oh, I haven't. He's like, yes, you have. Don't argue with me. Sends him to his death.
The fun thing too is like there's also like in that courtroom scene, the guy who plays the judge is literally Trey Parker's dad, so that's Randy Marsh right there.
I didn't know that's who was Randy Marsh. I didn't know that was his dad.
Yeah. So like you look at him, you go, oh yeah, he looks just like Randy, because literally it's like they just named those characters literally after their parents. So it's Randy and Sharon. That's Trey Parker's parents, and then oh god, what the heck's Kyle's parents in South Park? Gerald
Boflowski or whatever.
Yeah, Boflowski, Gerald, and what the hell?
Sheila.
Whatever. Sheila. So that's literally what like his parents' name. What? Yeah.
But yeah, no. What I was saying was Trey Parker. I love his songs, and like in this film too, it's a real treat. But one thing I always felt like was if you listen to some of the older White Zombie records, Rob Zombie, it's almost comical. They sound really similar, like some of the songs that Trey Parker did, like "Only a Woman," and some of the other ones. But Team America, fuck yeah,
yeah.
When you compare that to some of the songs on, there's a record by White Zombie called "Make Them Die Slow."
Okay.
I swear, there's some. I can't think of the name of the songs right now because, to be honest, I don't think it's an amazing record. But the way that Rob Zombie's singing, he sounds like Randy Marsh, or he kind of sounds like Randy Marsh. He kind of sounds like Trey Parker.
Interesting.
Like, my own, like that. Just it's freaking hilarious.
I gotta check that out because it's probably those some of those because those random White Zombie '80s CDs that you kind of forget they go that far back. Like,
oh yeah,
there's like 3 or 4 albums where they're kind of figuring it out. It feels like, you know what I mean? Like,
Los Exorcistos is where they really started to be amazing.
Yeah, because I think there's that period where it's just like. Plus, I always feel at that time it's like White Zombie had been weird to see in like '85. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, you're going up against like Bon Jovi and Motley Crue and all this stuff, and here's this other band, White Zombie.
What are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, I got to look for that and see about the Trey Parker stuff, because that probably wouldn't surprise me. You know what I mean?
It's hilarious. I found that years ago, and I'm like, dude, this sounds like Randy Marsh or Trey Parker.
Yeah,
because I think they sound kind of similar. But
yeah, well, Trey Parker plays Randy Marsh. So.
Yeah. Oh, he does. Oh, I thought you said his dad played Randy Marsh.
No, it's just based off his dad.
Oh,
in the movie, his dad's actually in the Cannibal. He played yeah. So that's where the connection is. But yeah, because mostly like Trey Parker, Matt Stone, they voice like 90% of the characters. They literally wanted they were gonna voice everything, other than like they got one female back in the old days, and then Chef, because they didn't want them.
They both
Yeah,
died.
the first one died. She died after the movie, so I think season 3 is when they replaced the second one. And then, of course, yeah, Chef, initially, before it was Isaac Hayes, it was Trey Parker and Matt Stone were literally just going to play Chef. And then Comedy Central was like, I don't think you should do that. and pretty much the voice that they were going to give is, you remember like when they're Chef's parents?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where there's like the Loch Ness Monster Lock. I gave him $350. And so I'm like, you gave him $350. You're not going to give me $350. Like, well, woman, I told you about that. Because that's Trey Parker and Matt Stone. So I always assumed that's probably what Chef was supposed to sound like.
I didn't even think about that.
Well, woman, how much did he ask for? I gave him about $350.
I miss the old South Park that was it was not really on current events and stuff. It was just random topics and random plots.
Yeah, that's literally my favorite, because it's like one of those. It's not saying that the current topics and stuff like that can be funny, and there's those are all great episodes too. But I'm one of those people, like, I love more original stories. Like, that's to me is like just random ass stuff. And yeah, those early, like the stuff it's like in about the first, like, give or take 6 to 8 South Park seasons, and especially the really early seasons, just because, man, I'm so fucking nostalgic for that. Because I remember back in the day when those came out, it was like there was in school, like, only me and one other kid, my buddy Cisco, were allowed to watch South Park. Nobody else was. So it blew kids' minds. Like, I remember they met my mom and like, you can watch South Park over here? It's like, what?
The first time the South Park was played in my house, my mother put it on just because I said, "Oh, South Park," and she saw a picture of it, and she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." And it was a 4th of July episode, and she's like, "What did they just say?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm sitting there giggling, She's like, "Did they just call him like a bitch? What did they say?" I'm like, don't know. But and then after that, it's like, no, you can't watch this anymore. I'm like, damn. Well, that 15 minutes was great while it lasted.
Exactly. I remember I used to, like, this sounds weird, I used to tape the South Park episodes on cassette tapes, not VHSs, cassette tapes, and then I could listen to them when I was at school. Like a radio drama.
That's pretty hilarious. Books on tape.
Yeah. I was like, I remember I realized, I'm like, oh, dude, I can hook up the cassette player to like the TV and record off of it. This is awesome.
That's pretty damn funny. But yeah, I love. I keep wanting to call him Squeak.
Squeak from yeah, little bitch.
Yeah,
it's like one of the best characters in basketball. I love that part where like they walk in basketball and stuff like that. They're showing the house, like, so yeah, this is Joe's room, and here's my room, and so on like that. And then they're like, and then here's your room. He's like, oh sweet, look at that bed. He's like, yeah, well that's for Rufus or whatever. Your bed's over here. It's just like this cardboard box on the floor. He's like, oh man, how am I supposed to get a girl in there? Like, yeah, like you could get a girl into that.
This tiny person, just always thrown under the bus, and Squeak's a bitch. Your mom fuck Squeak.
Yeah. So it's like one of those ones. I love that he's in there because he's also an Orgazmo and Chota Boy, So it's like you get him, you got Matt Stone, you got Trey Parker, you know what I mean? It's just like all they're kind of like, somewhat friends and people they know, from college and whatnot. And this is like that thing, like, I always look at this as like, this is like that last kind of glory period where like, if you said you were making a movie in a town, like people would be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. What can we do to help you out and everything like that? Because it felt like the second the internet kind of came along, nobody gave a flying fuck that you were making a movie anymore. Like that's not like, that just seems like a nuisance, more than anything else. But like, I feel like this, Clerks, El Mariachi, like there's all these great movies in like the 90s that one always just kind of inspired me to make a movie. Like even when I watch Cannibal again, you just go, God, man, I just want to go out and make a movie. It looks like so much fun, like right here, got the old gang together and whatnot. just having a good old, like, historic comedy blast, and they definitely put some effort into it. Like, it's one of those movies, I think they raised like $150,000 and so on like that, shot it on film and everything, they got nice special effects and so on, even though it's the B movie, but like, it's got that, like, you can feel that heart and soul of love put into it, and they put everything going.
I love the trappers.
Nice hat.
The special effects. The first thing I thought of was after they eat the dude, after they eat Swan, and they're carrying around his corpse, but it's like just a messed up doll.
Yeah,
it's like it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I just love how he just like
we can build a snowman.
Yeah, let's build a snowman. We can make him my best friend. It's like he's freaking out. And you finally have the guy of everybody at breaks. I love because you got like the Book of Mormon guy, who wants to be like.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love how the pastor's the one that breaks and starts becoming the murdering cannibal.
Yeah, and. Yeah, and then I guess the other storyline is it starts off is that like Trey Parker's character, Alfred Packer, he's like in jail. He's going to be hung for being like the cannibal, but realistically, he was just the guy there. So he's telling his side of the story to this reporter from Colorado and whatnot, and that's how you go back through it and whatnot. But yeah, it just has all kinds of cool scenes where they're just out there walking through the mountains and so on like that. And I think that's the thing is because it always kind of remind me, like, I watched this movie, I'm like, yeah, you could shoot this up in like the Sierra Nevadas of like California, like I feel like I could relate really well to like
Oh, yeah.
And that's how I always felt like even with South Park, and it's probably just like you because being in Arnold, California, it's like, but that and Twainhart, like I remember especially the old South Park. South Park, they've kind of made it kind of like Little LA in like the newer seasons and so on like that, where they have like malls and all kinds of stuff. But like in its initial incarnation, when it literally was just the small town version, it's like that literally felt like I felt like that I could relate 100% to this show growing up.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, I've been through Colorado a couple times, and then of course, mountains are mountains. Usually, I know a lot of people bite your head off for saying that, but I mean, what is funny to me is the Arnold and Twainhart. It's almost like the same place but different.
I always refer to them as bizarro versions of each other. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same place, just alternative.
Yeah, what was I was just about to say something about the. Oh yeah, I love when they run up on the Native Americans. And of course, they just decide to hide by laying on the ground. It's like, oh man, they don't see us.
And then I just love because it's one of those ones like because Trey Parker was taking Japanese. That was like his like major like, Japanese something else because like you couldn't just be in like film school or whatever. They kind of just barely had a film school at that time period. I think it's like funny. The University of Colorado now they have like apparently a well-developed film department, and then now they just sell it like, oh, it's the place that Trey Parker and Matt Stone came from. They're like, yeah, we just sort of had like 2 classes back in the day, and that was like it. It was like very experimental. And nobody liked it, but yeah, it's like so. There's all the Japanese guys. You know that they're probably all from like that class. But I just love that. It's got what was his name in Orgazmo? Like MC Fresh or whatever the heck it was.
I never saw Orgazmo.
Oh, you haven't? Oh gosh, now I know why you okay. Well, that might be another one we have to watch. I feel like Orgazmo. I do like it. I don't think I like it nearly as much as Basketball and Cannibal, but it's still really awesome. And that's the classic Trey Parker, Matt Stone. But
the only thing I know from that movie is the song "Now You're a Man."
Now you're a man. Oh,
I play that song all the time.
that song's literally on my workout play. I realized on my workout playlist I have like 4 Trey Parker songs on there. You gotta have America Fuck Yeah, because I don't know. Yeah. Patriotic songs, it doesn't matter what it is. I got patriotic songs from multiple countries because I also have like the Soviet national anthem, which always sounds so weird. Probably makes me look like some kind of communist, but I just picture like I envision myself like Dolph Lundgren from like Rocky IV. You got to have those visualizations and everything like that, and then it's backed right up against like the Team America one, and then Manowar's got a good cover of like that the Southern song, like the whatever, like the American Trilogy thing, where Elvis Presley used to do a good cover of it too. It's actually in Cannibal the Musical, actually, when that Southern guy starts singing the song and he starts singing the Southern one, and none of them can get it. He's like, "You boys ain't Southern."
Oh my gosh, I love that where he comes up. I'm so and so, and his eyes just go, his eyes squirting all over him.
Just the old gross out gags.
Just nasty. I love that crap.
There's so many great bits in this one too. Like the other one I love too is like they're starving, they're out there in the snow, and they're like all of a sudden it's right before this part. They're like, "Oh, there's a lamb," and then Squeak's all like taking his belt off, and Trey Parker's like, "Whoa, to eat." He's like, "Oh, I was just taking a pee." Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought. I'm like, "It's gonna fuck that thing? Like, what the hell?"
That part's one of my favorites. It's just like, oh man. But that's the thing.
I think the sheep would probably fuck him.
It's bigger than him. Oh god. Yeah. As I said, this movie's just so fun. Like one of those ones that like it's one of those ones that used to be back in the day when I got this DVD. It'd be the great one that like you just invite people over and be like, "I'm going to show you. We're going to have like a movie watch. You got to show you this." You know what I mean? Because it's just such a special experience that you're not just going to normally get. You're not just going to find on TV. I mean, they even said like they asked Matt Stone like Comedy Central never played this movie on TV for some reason. Like I feel like they could have just maximized it and whatnot, but. Yeah,
I love that kind of humor, that kind of comedy too. It like, is that slapstick?
You could kind of say it's slapstick. I'd probably put it in there. It's like a Mel Brooks, you know what I mean? Because slapstick's a weird one because slapstick can be either really good or it can be very obnoxious.
Stupid, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Especially, I feel slapstick humor in movies that are supposed to be kind of serious, it's kind of annoying. Perfect example is like you take some of those modern day Marvel movies where they throw some goofy fucking humor all of a sudden in there. It's like
it's like every other line. It's like,
dude, wrong. It's like you're kind of fourth wall breaking. Like you know what I mean? It's like it's not the right place for this. That joke.
The city's been destroyed, and it's like.
Yeah, and then they got to crack. Yeah, because they'll do that too. It's like they just got to crack a joke. I remember like Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like, there's a handful of moments in there. The movie's still good, but like, there's just a couple of moments where like you have like an emotional moment, and then somebody says something fucking stupid right afterwards. You're like, dude, it's not the right place. But then if you have a movie like Cannibal, you can do that stuff, or a Mel Brooks movie and something like that. But there's just some people like what happens is you'll see it happen in a lot of movies where like the first movie will come out and people will be like, man, people kind of like the comedy. And they're like, we'll double down on the comedy in the sequel. That happens a lot. Like perfect examples, watch Lethal Weapon 1 to Lethal Weapon 2. And not saying I don't like Lethal Weapon 2, but like, the first one's kind of like
much serious. Much
more serious. One guy's he's dealing with a depression and he's got like a gun in his head or in his throat at one point. He's gonna blow his brains out in his trailer down by the ocean. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
what movie was it? Yeah, that scene where he was, it was hilarious,
I like because there's a Simpsons episode that Mel Gibson's in and whatnot, and Homer literally tells him, he mentions that in a way where he's like, yeah, that scene in that movie right there, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And Mel Gibson's like, well, that wasn't really what I was going for.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I can't remember. It wasn't Loaded Weapon or not the one with
the National Lampoons. It's got Emilio Estevez and Samuel L. Jackson in the spoof one.
Might be that. Well, there's a few of them, like a few of those cop spoof films. There's two different series. I know there's the one with Leslie Nielsen.
Naked Gun.
It's a Naked Gun, but there's also another one.
There's one called National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon. It's literally a Lethal Weapon spoof. It's got Emilio and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, when he's sitting there all depressed, he's thinking about blowing his head off, and he looks at the picture of his dog.
I have that movie somewhere on DVD. I got to pull that back out because I haven't watched it probably since years. But I remember that, like, like Emilio always is rolling on the ground. Like every single time there's a shootout, he's just like rolling, spinning around, shooting.
One thing the Cannibal reminded me of too is you ever seen Almost Heroes?
I don't think so. I know of that title, but I couldn't.
That's a great movie. It's got what's his name, the fat guy who died, Chris Farley.
Oh, Chris Farley.
Chris Farley,
Ooh.
who I go back and forth with Chris Farley. I think a lot of his characters are the same. It's kind of like Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. It's like the same movie.
Yeah, both good movies though, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of like I don't know. It's all like I feel like it's almost the same movie here. But it's got him in it. What's his name? The guy who was Chandler Bing on Friends. He's dead now.
Shit. I know who you're talking about, but
they're both in it. Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry, that's right.
And then a few other actors, actresses that are relatively famous, I guess. But they're basically like, I think that might also be a National Lampoon. I'm not sure though. They're basically going to see the Pacific. It's like a Lois and Clark kind of thing, but
that's right. Isn't that Chris Farley's last movie too, or something like that?
Man, it might have been.
Yeah, I almost want to say that's what I kind of remember about that one. Is that that's the very last one he did.
That's a pretty hilarious movie.
Yeah, I gotta check that out.
It's real good. A lot of fun adventures of that, but this movie kind of reminded me of that too. Not exactly the same time period ish. Might not be too far off.
1700s maybe for that.
Might not be that far off. But yeah, I loved when the whole Japanese Native Americans and I don't know why, but I laughed on that harder than I laughed at anything else on the movie. We are Indians. Well, the moment that I started laughing my ass off was when I don't know if it was Swan or the preacher, the pastor that went up on the guy with the handgun, and he just kicked it to the side, and the other guy pulls out a katana, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, what? and then of course I couldn't hear very well on my screen because there was a lot of noise in the background, and the TV the YouTube version of the movie was kind of real low.
Yeah, I ended up pulling out my DVD because of that. I started that for a second, and I was like, just go to your rack and get that out.
But yeah, so I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, that doesn't sound like Native American. And I'm like, listen, I'll keep going. And it's funny because Squeak's character, he's like, what the hell kind of language is that? You know? And of course, Matt Stone's translating, which is terrible. You know, and the guy's like, we're gonna die. And but then as soon as they pull the gun out and he pulls out the katana, I'm like, of course, this is hilarious. And they go back to the camp and the dudes are practicing, like doing their martial arts.
Yeah, do the karate and everything.
Yeah, Indians.
And all their teepees have like the Japanese flag. And I just love how like what? You don't think we're Indians? We have teepees.
That reminded me of the Chew Pokemon episode of South Park.
Well, it's like it makes a lot of sense because you see all these things here, and then once you kind of know the Trey Parker backstory of how he's really into Japanese and all that stuff, you're like, oh, okay, now I see why he's got a lot of those like Japanese references and so on, and he does all of the South Park Japanese voices and so on like that. Like like one of the best South Park episodes too is the one where the shitty walk Chinese guy has the sushi guy that moves in next to him, and they're just like feeding the whole time. Holy crap! Like, I can't understand what you're saying. Well, you can understand what I am saying. I just speak a fucking English. I am speaking fucking English.
I love that. Gosh, I think my favorite one with the city walk Chinese guy was the one with the Mongolians come in.
Oh, you damn Mongolians!
Mongolians? What the hell Mongolians doing out here?
I like how the town's like, well,
Mongolians.
Yeah, like we know that only you have experience with building this wall, so he's the only one out there working on this wall.
There's no carpenters or no contractors or anything, no masonry, workers. Just a Chinese guy.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like the Indian chief dude who's in Cannibal. He plays a character in Orgazmo as well too. So that's kind of cool. I mean, a lot of these guys kind of like reoccur in Cannibal, which is kind of neat.
I figured. I mean, after I saw the guy who plays Squeak in basketball, Matt Stone, Trey Parker, and I figured there were some other guys that were stars in basketball too. But,
yeah,
because
because baseball's kind of interesting because that's like the Zucker brothers movie, so that's almost like the guys who did like Airplane and Naked Gun and all. Like, they're somehow at least associated with mostly any of those kind of non-Mel Brooks slapstick ones, you know. So it's like you kind of see where they sort of combined. And I feel like even though I know that Trey Parker and Matt Stone don't like, you know, they didn't write basketball or anything like that there, but I feel like there's so many jokes in that movie that you could kind of tell that they probably improv that as like a, you know, their version of humor. So it's like a mixed match of the two.
I didn't know that wasn't their film. They just started.
Yeah, that's like one of those. Well, because that's the thing. Trey Parker always goes. He's like that movie always appears in like they'll put it in like the films by Trey Parker section. He's like, well, I didn't make that movie. I'm just in that movie. That's the only thing, you know. And like, you know, well, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they're like those kind of guys. Like they definitely kind of don't like a whole lot. Like it takes a lot for them to really like a movie. You know, because you hear them like in their commentaries and so on like that. Like, you know, they're kind of picky on the stuff they really like, which is kind of funny. It's like the guys who just are making like the fart jokes and so on like that are like really picky about what movies they enjoy and what they don't, you know.
Yeah, no, this is pretty damn hilarious. I remember too the whole thing about Terrence and Phillip. They made those characters because somebody was critiqued South Park as a whole, saying it was nothing but fart jokes. Like, oh yeah. So they made a crude animation with fart jokes. So then they made it even worse by adding Terrence and Phillip, which was even cruder and was literally just fart jokes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's a lot. Or go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because it's like, look, man, like you're just being a jerk because you look at the show for what it is. Don't just watch with your eyes. Listen to what's really going on. Kind of like with Cannibal or whatever. Like, you got to be kind of smart to enjoy a comedy. You know what I mean? You got to really understand what's going on. You know, like it's not just a fart joke.
Yeah. There's depth.
Some level of intellect. But.
There's like a line I always love, like in the South Park movie, where like once they're like leaving like the theater and whatnot, and Cartman's like they're talking about the Terrence and Phillip movie, and it's like almost like Cartman's not into it anymore. He's like, yeah, but you know, I don't know, the animation's kind of shitty, and then it just shows them walking, doing like the shuffle back and forth walk. You know, oh man, but yeah, there's it's like, have you ever seen the movie Oklahoma or the play Oklahoma?
No. Mm-mm.
So that's the one thing that was like, you know, it kind of mentions it a little bit at the beginning, like it has that kind of joke at the very, like the text at the beginning where it's like, oh, this movie competed against Oklahoma, but you got, you know, kind of almost like delisted and, you know, it wasn't seen for many years and so on. But like Oklahoma's kind of like the one where it really like, you know, has the very similar kind of feel of like the musical numbers and everything like that. And it's probably, I'd say, out of those Roger and Hammerstein like old timey like musicals, it's definitely like the one that's. It's fun and funny and so on like that, but like it has like you could definitely see the vibe that comes with that here. You know, it's a strange thing when you think about it is that like both Trey Parker and what's his name from Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
How those two guys both, you know, in a sense, put together cartoons in the '90s and are ridiculously obsessed with musicals.
Yeah, I've seen some Family Guys that I enjoyed, and usually it's more so like scenes from the show that I think are funny. I was never big on the show itself, though. I always preferred South Park, Simpsons, King of the Hill. Family Guy just never really did it for me. That said, I feel like that show's just a giant collection of memes.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because that was always the thing that like even Trey Parker says about that. He's like that's one reason I never like being compared to that. Is he's like, because, you know, he's like, at least we're trying to write like a legitimate story and everything like that. Where Family Guy feels just like the jokes could almost be like piecemealed anywhere you want them to. It's not like you know, there's so much like pieces just put together and they could just be that could go in any episode and so on, which is kind of true. You know, this sounds weird. It's like I think Seth MacFarlane, when he does his live action stuff, is actually where he really excels at. You know, like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie like Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was pretty funny.
Super fucking good. Or Ted, like especially Ted 2. I think Ted 2 is fucking like perfect.
I watched Ted. I didn't watch Ted 2.
Ted 1's good, but like the only thing I just don't like about it is it has like the shitty kind of like, it makes Mila Kunis like the shitty girlfriend, which is kind of annoying. It's like they kind of fix that in Ted 2. They're like, no more shitty girlfriend. It's like literally it starts off like, Mila Kunis, fuck that bitch. Marky Mark's on his own again. And from that point on, it's like all the characters are good. So it's just like the comedy rolls nicer. It's not like you have that thing where you're slightly, not saying that Ted 1's still not, it's still enjoyable, but like, it kind of has that like kind of like antagonist thing where it's like, okay, I feel like I should be having more fun in this movie and not being like, here's this like bitch that just doesn't want Marky Mark to hang out with the bear that he's literally lived with his entire life.
Yeah, kind of. It just makes it's an unnecessary conflict, you know, because you roll into Ted 2 and she's not there, then it's like all that struggle, you know, was for nothing, you know. Yeah,
it has that weird thing. Well, it's like you see that in other movies too. I always think of like, you know, like Transformers 2 is a perfect example. Like they have that whole scene between Shia LaBeouf and like Megan Fox. Like, you know, we're getting together, we're gonna make it work. You know, we're connected for life. And then it cuts to like the third one, the very beginning. Like, what happened, Megan Fox? Fuck that bitch. I'm on to something new now. It's like literally how that movie starts off. It's like, you know, that's it.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Have you seen Kick-Ass?
Oh yeah.
I actually like those movies a lot.
They're good.
The second one, it kind of has the same thing. You know, the girlfriend that was such a big deal in the first one. Then in the second one, she's like, "No, screw you. Your buddy's baton's bigger." And he's like, "Yeah." Oh, no. But what I loved about that second one was Jim Carrey, because at first I didn't even realize it was Jim Carrey, and I was like, man, a lot of roles I've seen Jim Carrey do are relatively the same, but I love Jim Carrey. But seeing him do the that sergeant, whatever the hell he was, I was like, dude, that's like, that shows you that the guy's a good actor. You know? Yeah. That one's. I love when there's like those kind of like, they're almost like hidden character roles. It's kind of like Tom Cruise and like Tropic Thunder. Because it was like one of those ones. It took me a moment to realize, like, oh, wait a second, that's Tom Cruise right there. Yeah, you know what I mean? I didn't realize for a while.
Yeah, and I just think that's kind of cool when people can come out and do that kind of stuff where you really don't know that that's who it is, or at least not right off the bat, you know. But yeah, God, where was I going with all this? Can't remember. Somewhere. I don't know. There was a lead in from this. I felt like this was like snowballing from somewhere, you know. But
we can build a snowman.
Yeah. There's definitely a snowman of it. I like the part later on Matt Stone. I think it's Matt Stone. Maybe it's that or Squeak, where he's like, you know what I was wondering? How was he making that tapping sound?
You just thought about that now?
Yeah, it's one of those ones. I think anybody, it's like if you really like South Park, it's like you want that total like origin of like how Trey Parker and Matt Stone got to this position. You really got to check out Cannibal, especially nowadays. It's like that weird thing you don't think about, but like, man, South Park is this weird thing. It's been on since '97.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like it's like South Park and Pokemon. It's like that's like that thing. It's like they went like the same time period, and it's like they're still going just as strong as ever. Yeah,
when I started that, I looked up when the first South Park had aired, and I saw it was '97. I was like, okay, so this movie's a bit older. Like I said, I didn't realize it was their first film, and now knowing that now, there's a few things that kind of line up to me a little bit better. Like, okay, this makes sense. It's like just kind of the vibes that I got from it. You know, like a lot of that things that you feel when you watch South Park. That's what I was feeling too, watching the Cannibal the musical. And no, that's pretty great. I love the that's all I'm asking for.
That's all we're asking for. It's all we're asking for. Yeah, that's the songs are so good in this one.
Going from that into the the second time they sing it, they're just like all miserable, laying in the snow, dying.
He's starving.
Reminded me actually of Team America when they sing that song like the second or third time and they're all sad.
The sad version of like America, fuck yeah. I love that version. I know it made me really go. I'm like, I gotta pull out Team America. It's been a moment since I've watched that. I think that's one of the next ones I gotta throw on the list there.
First time I saw that movie was on when I had a PSP.
Oh, did you? So you had the UMD version of it?
I had the UMD version of Team America, and I thought it was pretty great. Well, then I eventually didn't have my PSP anymore. I got rid of all that, and then I wanted Team America back, so I got it on DVD, and I got the unrated version that I didn't even know I did. And the dolls are having sex, and all of a sudden she's shitting on his chest, and I'm like, what the hell? What?
That wasn't my PSP version. Yeah.
Like, didn't remember that. What? And it was funny was I was watching in the living room of my house, and my mom's like, "What the hell?" You know, shut up, mom. Get out of here.
Best part.
I'm gonna pause it real quick. I want you to get out of the house.
She's doing it for America, damn it.
Yeah.
No, that one's so good and so on, and gosh, it's one of those likes too. I like you mentioned UMDs, and I'm always kind of nostalgic for UMDs. I think that's like that thing that was like, it was a very cool idea. It was just almost like the time has changed. Just it's almost like those things needed to come out like 10 years earlier, and they probably would have been a massive hit. But right about that time, it was like, internet's starting to get fast, and streaming starting to appear, and downloads are starting to. Yeah, it was just like a little too late. Like if that came out in like '95, and that was like a tie-in of like back. I don't know how. Wait, would have been. The quality would obviously not been anything special, but it would have been like, whoa, check this thing out. I got my portable movie player and everything like that, and so on.
Oh yeah, I never had the PS Vita, but that was relatively the same thing, right, as the PSP?
It was just like the PS Vita was like it was almost like a PS3 handheld, so it was pretty powerful. Huh. Like the Vita is like one of those things, that's like one of the coolest handhelds ever made, but sadly like nobody really had them. And they only had a handful of games for it. But the upside is that there were so many like crossovers from PS3 and PS4 even. Like like if you had certain downloads, it's like, oh, you could actually download this on your PSP Vita as well too. So it does make for a really cool system. Like I got one of those, but yeah, it's one of those things. It's like it's almost so cool and so powerful that they almost just sort of got lost. Because I remember like that was like a lot of developers were like, well, why make a game for PSP Vita when it's literally you're 2 steps away from having just a PS3 game? It was almost too close. Where it's like like the DS and like the Nintendo systems were quite a bit different from each other. So it wasn't like it's not like it was just the same thing you could just easily port back and forth.
It's like I wonder. I've always wondered why the other companies didn't make their own version of the Switch.
Yeah.
Because it's just right before I got one, which was a while after they were already made, I was like, why? Why have I not had this until now?
It's great. It's one of those ones. Like I always tell people, I'm like, if you're only going to have one, you'd probably be best off having Nintendos. You're going to get like some of the best games right there. It might not look as good as your Xbox or your PlayStation. That's definitely for sure. But
I gotta go into my desk real quick. I forgot to plug my laptop in. It's
you're gonna lose power. I already lost my light power. Went out already. It's like, well, that thing wasn't charged. It's okay. Oh yeah. He's going under the desk. He's going down under. Get plugged in. Well, nothing's worse though than you're just halfway into conversation and then it just cuts out. And then you're like, oh. And back in the old days, it used to be a major problem. It'd be like, oh shit, there goes the entire recording and so on like that. At least nowadays, with, use StreamYard and all that good stuff, it takes care of that. But yeah, God, I can't remember. There's something that was going at there with that UMDs and so on like that, handhelds. Oh yeah, it's like Sony has that PS Portal thing out now, but the only thing that's kind of dumb about it is like you have to like hook it up to like your internet. And it has to be hooked up to your PS5. Like, so it's like, the only thing that if they would have just made it where it's like, hey, this thing just uses that PlayStation like streaming service, and that's all it needed to do. But it doesn't. You have to have it hooked up to your system. So it's kind of like, it's like a goofy. It's like one of those things where I think in like Japanese households that thing's like really popular, but in America it's kind of like a goofy unit. It's like for somebody who has everything PlayStation and just wants one more.
Yeah. In general, it bums me out that damn near all the games that you made these days, you got to have internet. And it's like, not that you need to play online, but just to play the game, you got to download this and that. You got to get these updates and stuff. It's like, man, does that make me miss the days of? I mean, even PS3 wasn't that bad.
No, PS3 and 360 still had the games on the disc. That's kind of how I always refer to it.
Yeah.
Is like the games like from PS4 and up, the games aren't even on the disc really. There might be like a part of the download, but it's like you're not gonna be able to play the game off that disc if you don't have the internet. So it's almost kind of like, why even have the physical media if it's not even on it? Like it's kind of silly. That's why I really think that like it's getting to that point where I think that next version of the systems, I'll be surprised if it still has discs. Like they'll probably do that thing that like they have that PS Pro coming out, and the thing is it's like $700 for it, and they're like, the disk drive is separate. And I know some people go like, what the fuck? I'm like, I know what they're doing. They're trying to make it so it's like, hey, you have the disk drive. If you truly want it, you can come buy one. But they're really trying to go like, here's the thing. Most people are probably going to buy this system, and they're not even going to need the disk drive. You know, if we put the disk drive out there, they're going to think they're just going to buy it just to have it. You know, it's like one of those kind of things. Well, might as well just in case. But because it's sort of a separate thing, I think they're kind of gauging to see if people really want that disk drive or not.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'll even get the next generation systems when they come out. I mean, I'm looking to buy a PC anyway because, like, for a lot of reasons. Gaming is one of them, but more so because, like, what we're doing right now, it's possible, obviously, to do what I'm doing with the laptop I have and these things, but it's kind of lame. I mean, you know, you sound so much better than I do, and my camera is not as good as yours.
Well, my camera's even better when the light works. But yeah, it's like one of those ones. It's like those little things. Yeah, you add one more feature and so on. You add that, and you know it stacks up and whatnot. But it is true with a PC, you can kind of do whatever you want. Like you aren't really limited too much. You know, if you want the biggest bang for your buck, that's the thing. And the nice thing is PCs really, realistically, you can get so much good stuff for like literally like not that expensive. If you could, I just compare it to like, you know, the olden days and so on like that. I mean, for just little over like for just about give or take $1,000, you can have a pretty solid rig. And if you want to spend even more, you could have a destructive rig of, you know,
part of it for me is not even what I could have with the PC as much as what I used to be able to get with consoles that are no longer a thing. You know, like, you know, you used to have those deals at like Costco and stuff that was like the system plus 2 memory cards, 4 controllers, 2 games, you know, like, and it was like the same price as normal, you know, and now it's like that's a thing of the past. You know, I went to Costco a while back looking at systems. They're like, none of that. It's just a system. They got.
Yeah, they never have that anymore. I remember that was just the thing is I would just go there to pick up games because they were guaranteed $10 cheaper at Costco. So if I like, you know, I had a buddy that was going down for a Costco or their parents or something like that, be like, I'll go down and I can go grab a game and save $10. And $10 was a lot back in the day. I mean, that went far. Nowadays, $10 doesn't sound like much, but yeah, I guess the equivalent $10 would be like saving $25 nowadays, probably. You know, so it was nice, and you know, yeah, that's like so many of those things where it's just like those like fun deals. It's like perfect example is even just go to like you used to just kind of go to Walmart and they used to have like those rollback things and you'd be like, oh, here's some games for like next to nothing, like $5, $10. That went away like 4 years ago. Like that,
especially
I haven't.
Nintendo.
I haven't seen that. Well, I used to go in there and sometimes it'd be like those deals where like some of those Nintendo Switch games and something like that would be so cheap. They'd be like, I would just buy a handful of them. I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to need all these, but
I actually I bought Pokemon Snap that way. It was like $40 on sale. And because one day when I was working at Walmart, I asked somebody, I'm like, why aren't these Nintendo games ever on sale? I see some of the Xbox, some of the PS5s on sale, but I don't ever see any of these Nintendo games on sale. And they're like, well, that's because Nintendo feels that their games are worth the same amount no matter when you buy them. And that if, you know, that they would be doing the people that already bought them a disservice by discounting them so you can buy it for cheaper. And I'm like, well, okay, but I mean, that's the way everything else is. You know, when there's products that have been on the shelf for 10 years, it's like, well, nobody's buying this. We still need to make a little money. So how about we take $20 off, you know, of this $70 game, you know? Yeah. But it's like, whatever. I don't care. I still bought the Switch. I still buy the games. Like, obviously it doesn't stop people.
Well, I kid you not, before like 2020 and all that kind of stuff, they used to go, they would go quite cheap on some of those ones. Like they would just be like, we have some inventory here at Walmart, rollback price, get rid of it and so on like that. And I just noticed that totally went away. It was like one of those ones once everybody kind of stayed home and they're like, you know what, we're gonna milk the fuck out of these people. Where are they going? They got all this free money. They don't need a fucking discount. The government's paying for them, you know. So I think and it's like once that cat like got out of the bag, it never went back in. So those days of those good sales, but yeah, no, it's worth getting a PC because then you got a lot of variety of choices. Steam always has great sales. GOG always
it'd be hilarious is a Cannibal the musical version of Oregon Trail.
That actually would be really sweet, or like the Yukon Trail and so on like that. Because that made me kind of think of stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, it does have that sort of feeling and whatnot, and you could go on a little journey. And you know what's kind of a bummer, speaking of Oregon Trail, because that is kind of like that, but is the fact that they never really have re-released those like old Oregon Trail versions. It's like they have a modern one that came out that was kind of like a phone game that they transferred to like the consoles and so on like that. It was decent enough. It's a little bit, it's got a little bit of woke stuff in it, but you can kind of disregard that slightly. But it's just there where it's just whatever. It's I mean. You still get the general Oregon Trail. It's not like they took them hunting out or something like that. We're like, no, we just we pet the animals instead, and they give us food somehow. Yeah, I don't have anything stupid like that. You're still got that. But I would love to see like a set where it was just like all the old Oregon Trails, and if you could have the different versions, because like I'm very nostalgic for that Apple II version Oregon Trail in like the black and green, like old school like monochrome display.
If I'm not wrong. The video game and toy museum that we have here in town, that's also an arcade. I believe they have that version, and you can go in there and play it all day. Nice. That place is really cool. When you eventually find yourself out here, we'll definitely go there. It's you pay like $10 and you can stay there as long as they're open and play whatever they have. And it's they got a million toys in there, a million games. We got some movies too, but they got the Oregon Trail. They got some of the old gauntlets. They have the older Star Wars arcade shooter.
Which one? There's two of them because there's Star Wars arcade, like the one where you're flying the X-wing and whatnot, and then there's the one where it's Star Wars arcade where it has like the 3 different levels, and one of them you're on a speeder, one of them you're flying in space, and the other one you're like battling Darth Vader or something like that.
I think it's that one, but I could be wrong.
That one's a great. I love that. That Star Wars arcade's great.
They got a ton of stuff in there. They got I think they have Alien, the Alien arcade shooter.
Nice.
Or Aliens. It's pretty awesome. But
when we come out, they gotta definitely check that out.
Yeah, that would be hilarious though. The Cannibal. The Cannibal Trail.
Well, yeah, Oregon Trail. You know what's funny is they have something kind of. There's this one game called like the Oregon Trail, and it's actually kind of cool. I downloaded it on Switch or something a while back, so it's pretty much like the Oregon Trail, but it's like kind of zombie themed. But it's got cool like old school like it almost looks closer to like the Apple II version than like some of the other games that kind of like mimic that. But so like you're journeying across like the U.S. and there's zombies out there and whatnot. And they got things that are kind of themed there, and you got to make your whole party sort of survive. I thought it was kind of cool. I enjoyed it.
I don't know why that made me think of Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
That's a great game too. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's one of my favorites. It's got all like the and I think the double thing too is because it's like there's a lot of classic like cinema references in there because everything's kind of gone from like Universal monsters to like 50s kind of horror and themes and so on. The music's great. That's one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. But, the good old Cannibal. I don't know.
Good old Cannibal. I'm glad you finally got to check this out because, as I said, this used to be one of those movies that when I first got it, I used to love to show people. It was just like a magical experience, And you almost do need to start checking out some of those other Tromaville movies and whatnot. They just sort of distributed this one, but like
Tromaville?
Troma, like Troma. So Troma is the company, and they have you can look up Troma on YouTube, and you can kind of see some like trailers and so on. I think they actually have some kind of because they have a lot of movies by this point. They're kind of like Roger Corman movies and so on like that, where he's got a bunch of B stuff, and then he started producing things, and then he started distributing things, yada yada yada. But there's just a lot of like they're kind of a mixed match of like goofy horror, comedy, sex comedy. and then gross out gags and so on. Like, so definitely not movies for, you can't just show them to anybody. Like, there's one movie I have that was like one of the last ones that Lloyd Kaufman did. Like, he directed everything. It was called like Poultrygeist, where it was like a like this.
Yeah, I know a Poultrygeist.
Yep. So that was like one of them where like they build like this chicken stand on like a Indian burial ground, and then like kind of slash zombie thing, and it's got a bunch of gross out gags. Like one of those movies, once again, you can't just show it to anybody, but it's funny.
There's a Lamageddon. There's Night of the Chicken Dead.
Yeah.
You ever seen? There's a couple movies you've probably seen them. I'm guessing you've seen them. There's Into the Mouth of Madness. It's not a comedy at all.
Yes, that's a great movie.
We saw that
John
recently.
Carpenter.
I think it might be my favorite horror movie of all time. Into the Mouth.
Isn't
of
that
Madness.
one good? I think that thing, it's got Sam Neill in it and everything like that. I've seen it a few times, and man, is it good.
And then The Rainbow and the Serpent. I don't know if
I've never seen that one. I know of that, but I've never seen it.
That's a really good one too. That's a real good flick. And supposedly that one's also loosely based probably on real events. That one's about zombies in Haiti.
Oh, that's cool. I listen to classic zombies.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in that film. That surprisingly, there's some things in it that are not as far-fetched and that you would think. And I'm not talking about zombies. I mean like practices, like religious practices, cult practices, because that's a lot of it's similar to what happens in certain places in Brazil that my wife was telling me. Just like what do you call it? Cultural, stuff.
Yeah,
but pretty interesting. But yeah, no, that In the Mouth of Madness is pretty good. I don't know what made me think of those, but I was like, oh no, those are great.
Yeah. You just get it's like it's kind of like it's like watch some horror movies and so on like that. I mean, Cannibal's it's got horror movie vibes. I feel like it's more like a surviving movie, kind of like. Have you ever seen speaking of cannibal movies, but oh geez, what the hell's that one called about? The one where like the soccer team from like Colombia or whatever.
Yeah, we just watched that.
I know there's a newer. I think there's a newer one that came out, but there's the old one.
We saw the new one. We saw the new one. We didn't see the old one.
Yeah, I have the old one on VHS somewhere around here, but I remember that one being a really cool one back in the day.
I'll have to watch the old one because we watched the new one a few months ago. I say a few months ago. It was when we were in Rio during the holidays. Yeah. But that was a pretty good flick. Pretty gross. Pretty good flick.
I think Laura watched that new one because I remember I came on, this looks like Alive, but it's different, But there's an old one from the 80s that was always kind of fun.
I think my wife might have told her about it. Either that or they watched it at the same time or something.
maybe just one of those ones. Yeah, like they had a mind connected, which was watching Cannibals, Or have you ever seen, there's a great one too that this actually might be a fun one to watch later down the line, but Cannibal Holocaust.
No.
It's this Italian movie from like 81, I want to say. And dude, it is so good. It's one of those movies that like the violence in it is almost like so good because it like or so realistic, and it's shot like almost you would say kind of like it's a real documentary, like almost in kind of like Blair Witch almost, but like way earlier than that, where it just feels like it's like a found footage movie, but like an old school version of that. And I remember it was like they showed it like at the Italian whatever like festivals for film and whatnot. And Sergio, what's his name? I'm trying to feel like it's not that late, but for some reason I'm like, yeah. But the dude who did Good, Bad, and the Ugly and all that stuff.
Sergio Leone.
Yeah, Sergio Leone. He literally goes to the director. He's like, this movie's great, but here's the thing: you're gonna get so much flack for it. They literally thought the movie was real. They thought it was a snuff film, so it like got banned for a long time and so on like that.
There was a movie that I don't remember what it's called, but there was a movie that was I feel like it's also well known, but the director had them like hide from people, like hide out and not show their faces until the movie was released because they wanted it to make it seem like all the things in the movie actually happened, like they were actually murdered.
They did that in Blair Witch. Yeah, Blair Witch, they did that I think for like 6 months or something like that. Those actors just like disappeared for a while.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
It is the one.
I mean, Cannibal, the Holocaust was one of those ones. They had to bring the actors out and be like, look, they are alive. They are not dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it's got like the special effects in it are ridiculous. And the thing too is about it is it actually has real violence in it too. So when you show real violence with fake violence, it's hard to tell which one's fake. Almost in a sense.
Yeah.
Because they kill like some animals in it, which generally you couldn't really do, especially nowadays. Granted, the Italians were like, well, we killed them and we ate them, like we were gonna do anyways. We just happened to film while we were doing it.
Yeah.
So it has some of that, but dude, that movie's so good though. It's like one of those ones. And then even Eli Roth, he has kind of like an ode to that movie called The Green Inferno that came out a handful of years ago, and it's pretty good too. Yeah, not as good as Cannibal Holocaust, but it was still kind of a cool one there. So go through all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we got a little bit of Cannibal the musical in on this one here. Classic Trey Parker, Matt Stone, proto South Park era. A fun-filled movie of not only just a cool story, Donner Party style, but you get great comedy. You get great musical numbers in it too. Even if you don't like musical stuff, like this is one of those ones that you'll probably like this. I feel like comedy musical can mostly outweigh it. Myself, there's a handful of musicals I've always kind of liked. I always just kind of grew up with people that liked sometimes musicals, so I got kind of used to it. Where some people have a hard time with them. Like there's dumb musicals out there for sure, and there's a lot of dumb musicals. I'm not denying that, but when musicals are good, they're really good. I think, and I think this one's definitely one of them.
The La Mez that came out with Kurt Russell Russell Crowe, and Hugh Jackman. I've never really cared much about that story, and I'm not saying it's not a story worth telling, but I just didn't do nothing for me. But then when I saw that musical, I don't know how much I want to see Russell Crowe singing all the time. That said, unless it's Russell Crowe fighting around the world. But
yeah, that's a great one.
Making movies, making songs, fighting around the world. There's some Chinamen. I love fighting. Come here, you testicle. But no, the visuals in that movie, they were freaking pretty amazing. And I don't know, it was like a all-star cast too. But Sacha Baron Cohen's character was pretty hilarious. But that was a good movie. I didn't love it as a musical. I liked it as a film. I'm not a big musical fan.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It takes the right one, I feel.
Which Cannibal is the right one.
Yeah, Cannibal's, that's the way to do it. But yeah, if you've never checked out Cannibal the musical, it's one of those ones. It's worth going out of the way. You can watch that version on YouTube. Somebody's uploaded it there. It's not the greatest quality, but it's not the worst quality either. If they still, I don't know. That DVD feels like one of those ones they might still sell that, or that could be one of those really expensive DVDs. I don't know.
Yeah.
So they made prints of it, 13 years ago, and now it's one of those ones that's like $30 or $40 used. It could be one of those movies, but might be still well worth it anyways. Good for the collection and everything like that. But yeah, fun
good
stuff.
To preserve it.
Yeah, I'm glad we went back in time to watch this because, it just reminded me of how much I truly love this movie. It just puts a giant smile on my face the whole way through. It's so much fun. It's so good. And it makes me feel like I'm like, man, I got to go back out and make movies again. Like, that's literally how I felt. I was like, man, I'm like inspired. I don't know what I'm going to make by myself or anything like that, but it's there, the option. But yeah, till then, all that good stuff. You got anything you want to shout or anything like that? I know you've been working on your gun videos that you know what TikTok is and guns.
I was gonna do some shout outs here, but not quite yet because I started working on some of them. I uploaded some stuff, and then all of a sudden, this is banned. I'm like, I got to rethink my strategy here.
yeah. TikTok's tough with the guns. I think YouTube's a little bit better, but I'm not going to say that they're that much better.
Yeah, you got to really do things the right way, and it's so restrictive. I might just start doing motorcycle videos and stuff. I don't know. There's so many different things you can do, as you know.
For some reason, the guns is a weird one because I even got blocked from having on TikTok for doing this. I said I did that commando scene out of Commando, where they're out
Yeah.
buying guns in California. I was like, this is hilarious. Yeah, I was just like, yeah. I'm like, and I just gave it the subtitle of like buying guns in California in the 80s, and flew fine on YouTube, but on
I got unsafe handling of firearms, and I'm like, I didn't even touch them. They're just sitting on a table.
Yeah. They're like, well, there should be a hand on it the whole time. That gun could jump up at any moment now and bite somebody.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, that I want to do some music reviews, but I got to get a vinyl player. I don't even have a CD player anymore, and I got 500 CDs sitting behind me.
Oh God! But I should give you. I have my record player here that I sadly never seem to use. I have a lot of stuff. It's like someday I'll get use out of this, and then it sits like usual.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, I'll buy it from you. But otherwise, no, I got.
If you live next to me, I just literally give it to you.
Yeah, that's a pain in the butt to try to ship something like that.
Yeah, to ship something that big would be you just probably the same price as buying one.
Yeah, but otherwise, no, I got nothing to say other than another great time on the podcast here.
Awesome. Well, we'll find something fun to do next and go from there. Till then, you can always go to oldmanorange.com. We find more podcasts, comic books, all the old videos, books, and so on like that. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
Dave Candito.
And we'll see you some other time.